Hello and thank you for joining me. I'm Heather Forgan of StartWithNelly.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the UK. And here today in sunny Scotland, it is not sunny. It is pouring with rain and we've had thunderstorms. So I'm cheering myself up with some sunshine vibes and Boho Vibes designer series paper. And I have created this little thank you treat box. And it has a belly band. There's a tiny little nip out there, and there's a crunchy bar in it. Now these are the ones that come in a pack of 4, so 32 grams those are. Okay, so just a nice simple lidded box, but jazzed up with my Boho Vibes belly band. There's always a right way and a wrong way to put those back on. There we go. So I'm going to make another one, and starting off with my Daffodil Delight card that measures 7 inches by 5 inches, and I'm going to do some scoring on that, and then I need to cut this 6x6 down a bit as well. So I'm just going to use my paper trimmer. So this is the 7-inch side here, and I'm using the lighter scoring blade, and I've tucked that darker cutting blade out to the way for now. So I'm lining this edge up with the 1-inch mark, just there, and give that a score. Whiz it around and do the same. So we're effectively scoring at 1 inch and 6 inches. Okay. Then on the short side, I'm going to score that at 1/2 inch. And I just like to do the 1/2 inch at that side. Could do it at that side. It's just my preference. Then at 1 3/4 inches. Then 2 3/4 inches. And then at 4 inches. There we are. Okay, that's the scoring done. As usual, all of the measurements will be in my blog post, and there will be a link to that in the description for this video. I'm just going to burnish those score lines, making sure that my edges tie up. Give that press. So although it is very miserable today weather-wise, it's still quite warm. What we call in Scotland muggy weather. Right, so we have that 1/2 inch at the top, then we've got 1 1/4, 1, 1 1/4, 1. So the finished box measures 5 inches by 1 inch by 1 1/4. Okay. Rightio, so let's do a little bit of cutting. We're cutting these panels along those sides there. So I'm just going to cut straight up those score lines to that first horizontal score line, and I'm just going to do that all the way along. So our weather has been incredibly changeable. I'm going to do the same either side just to get things rolling. So yes, our weather has been incredibly changeable. It's very hot and sunny one day and then stormy the next day. What about where you live? Right, I'm going to take these two little rectangles off completely. Out of the way. Okay, now we've got rectangle, square, rectangle, square. Let's tuck those rectangles out the way and chop into these squares. Just taking a wedge out either side. Okay, now I also want to chop those down because as it stands at the moment they overlap quite a bit. So I'm just going to eyeball roughly in half on those two, like that. And then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So tuck those and then roughly in half. You can do it either way. Okay, lots of little bits to go in the bin when I'm finished. So there's where we're at the moment. I also want to take these two down, but not quite as far as that. So I'm just going to take, what's that, about 1/4 of an inch off. And it's just so that the lid's a little bit easier to tuck in. So if you want to be particular, you could measure each side, make sure you're consistent. I'm not that bothered. If I'm giving someone a chocolate bar and they think, oh, your tabs aren't quite true, then they can't be one of my friends, let's face it. Okay, so I am going to use any circular punch you've got. Doesn't matter what size. I just grabbed the first one. I don't even know what size it is. Probably 2 inches. Just to take a little nip out of there. I forgot to do it on my original and had to do it when it was already built up. Then I want to round corners. Again, just makes the tucking in process a bit easier. This is a retired punch from Stampin' Up. It was called Detailed Trio. I love the corner rounder on that. It has no problem getting through a couple of layers of card if necessary. Okay, so that is going to tuck in. I'm also going to put that out there. Around the corners on. Nope, that needs to be out there so that gets right to the top. Silly lady. There we go. We're right in. That. And then that way. You could just cut that off. You don't have to round the corners. I just think it looks a little bit neater and worthwhile in my book today. Other days I might not think it is. Right, especially with all of this bending and folding. I do have another corner rounder that you can just in, but it's not a Stampin' Up one, and it's not as good in my humble opinion. The only thing is I've got quite a few layers of card here with tabs. Get that in, and sorry, I'll be wibbling the camera about as well. It's not gonna, that possibly didn't help. There we go, got it in this time. No, I didn't. I only got it in so far. That's better. That'll do. I have mangled that piece of card there. I didn't do that the last time. It's always when there's a camera on, eh? Right, I'm gonna tidy that up a little bit so it doesn't look quite so second hand. Okay, I have an eraser here. See if we can get some of that off there. That'll do. Right, okay. Back to it, Heather, back to it. Right, okay, so we want to put glue on these 4 little tabs here. Okay, you can almost use one of the little bits you chopped off as a glue spreader. And then line that up, give it a press. Do the same that side, line it up, give it a press. Then if we fold that forward, I'll line up those 2 edges and give it a press. And same on this side, just lining that up and then giving it a good press, like so. So my box is ready for my chocolate. Okay, so it's just going to pop in there. Put it in flat, like that. Then these bits will tuck in at the end, and that will tuck down in the front, like so. We've got a little box. We now just need to do some decoration. So I'm going to decide on my pattern. I've already die cut the pieces to put on the front. So these are the Sunshine Vibes. This one and this one are pretty much the same shape or same size in height wise. So I've just used a combination of those 2 because they fit in nicely. And I'm going to go that way so that, because if I went that way, they're going that way and that's a bit too much. Okay, decision made. I'm going to cut this down to 4.5 inches. Four and a half, like that. We can take that off, and then I'm going to trim this down to 5 1/4, like that. There we go. And I'm going to score that at 1 inch, just to get me started. Give that a gentle fold. Bring back in the one that we haven't decorated yet, and I'm starting on the bottom, and then I'm just going to wrap that around, giving it a little pinch there, and a little pinch there, and then I can, so I've scored that one. I can then just straighten that up and go along with that one. There was my next pinch. Straighten up those edges. Just using my fingers instead of the bone folder. Like so. Pop this back in. Oh, well, it's gone down. And then I'm going to put a little bit of glue along that edge. And I'll put a little bit of glue on the inside of this edge. And then I'm just going to fold them over. I'm going to leave it slightly loose, not going really, really tight with it, just so that it's easier to slide off and on. All right, so we then have, I have cut these in coordinating colours. These are Secret Sea, Cloud Cover, Petal Pink and Cajun Craze. And I want to alternate the styles of them as well. So I think that's roughly where I want the first one to be. And I'm going to bring in a silken mat for this because these have got holes. When you put the glue on, it can go through the holes. I've got my trusty cocktail stick, toothpick, whatever you want, and I'm just gonna pop that one on there. Then do the next ones. I'm trying to be as light and as delicate with the glue as I can. Like so. And the next one's this one. And finally, the Secret Sea one. And that'll do there. So again, once they're in place, I'll use my bone folder to press it down a little. Not too fussy about the ends there. They're going to get covered up with my sentiment, which is the Thanks from Sunshine Vibes. And again, I'm using Secret Sea. Just a few light taps of that. It is definitely covered. Beautiful. And then I'm just going to trim that down to fit. I could use my snips, but I do have this lovely little guillotine trimmer. Unfortunately, no longer available, but you can buy similar elsewhere. There we are. And I'm going to pop that up with mini dimensionals. 1, 2. Let's be generous and go for 4. Oh, if I can get them to stick to the card and not me. Always a help. And take those backings off. And pop that down. As I say, I'm covering most of the ends of those little arches anyway. So I've got that. My final touch, I think I squished that at some point. And again, as I say, there's always one way that it wants to go in easier than the other. There you are. That's better. Final touch was to add some of the embellishments from the same suite. These are muted palette dots, and you can see I have written on the colours there to remind myself, because the packaging doesn't have the colours on it. So I'm going to use There we go. I am happy with that. I'm quite sure whoever receives these little chocolate treat bars will be too. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, please click on that subscribe button, click the bell and get a notification the next time I upload a tutorial. Until then, please do take care. Bye bye.